Let's talk your relationship with the ocean because I've always watched you from afar and been like proud to say, bro, hey, I went to school with Joel Centeio, and people would be like, oh, really? Yeah, right. Because at a certain point, man, you were really, really taking. You had a lot of steam, and your name was in a lot of different conversations in the circuit. Tell me how you got into surfing. Besides barbers, how you started competing professionally.
Yeah, so the surfing thing, it started at a very young age. The passion just kind of grew, I think, through high school and competing. And then, once you start to compete at, just in the state of Hawaii, you start to win. And then the passion grew a little bit more. And then it was like, okay, like I started winning at the national level, won a couple national titles, and by the time I was a senior in high school, I won in 2000, I won the ISA World Junior Championship, that one was held in Brazil. At that point, it was like, I was so dedicated to the sport of surfing. Like, not only I loved being in the ocean, and I loved the feeling of riding waves, and then you kind of started mixing that in with like winning surf competitions and that feeling of like, wow, like I could maybe do this as a living, and that's where I was like, okay, well, I'm head down, you know what I mean? And at that time, like the surf industry was a little bit different, like nowadays it's changed a lot, and we can go into that a little bit later, but like there was contracts to be had, at young ages, really, like I started making money when I was like 14, 15, and that was just like endorsements from sponsors, you know what I mean? That wasn't just like start doing pro juniors and pro events when you're 15, 16 and actually getting prize money, And so like I knew like by the time I was coming into high school, like surfing is what I wanted to do, And so I just kind of put everything into it. And then, fast forward, graduated from high school, it was like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to be a pro surfer. I had contracts like, okay, the next step, what's the next step, And I was like, okay, go out on the road and start to, go on the road qualifying series and travel around to all the different countries, do these events, It was pretty much a pretty amazing lifestyle, really. I got to see the world by the time I was 20, 21. I saw everywhere, France, Indonesia, Australia. And it was just like, it was cool, man. Like it was just a fun time in my life.
So tell me this, how is it for a Hawaii boy to surf at a break in France? Like, what's the experience like?
So, what's funny is actually my first ever international trip was with Rel's son, and she took all the Manahunis over to France, Biarritz, France. And I went there when I was 11 years old. And so it was a pretty amazing experience, not only just because everybody should know Auntie Rel's son, but she was just the queen of Makaha, just an amazing, amazing human. And all she cared about was the kids in the community and giving back to the kids in the West Side. And she was a lifeguard. She's just so much accolades and just an amazing person. And so she took like, I think it was like 20 of us little kids, all the Groms, to France when we were like 11. And we just like, we went there and like, it was pretty cool. Like my mom traveled with me because I was so young, and like, just to see like a different country like France, and like experience Paris and all that was pretty amazing. But fast forward, like as I, started to go back when I was a professional, it was just different. I was much older and like,
more serious,
a little bit more serious, like I'm going there for events, to compete. But at the same time, like there's a lot of downtime when you're, when you're surfing events, whether it's like a lay day or contest is off or whatever. So you get to see the coastline, you get to see the place, you get to taste the wines, eat the food, like, and France is
sense of culture.
And those are the things that like, like that just really kind of stand out to me. It's like, that was like my college in a way, you know what I mean? Like I graduated from Campbell in 01. And for me, like, going straight out on the road and just seeing the world was like kind of, I feel like I learned almost more than my friends who went straight into college. You know what I mean? Different style, but to a certain extent, yeah.
Well, it's a different type of cultural experience. And I think that when you're from small town Hawaii, a lot of times you can kind of have that small town perspective. And then when you go out into the world and you experience different cultures and realize that the world is so much bigger than Hawaii. It does enrich you in a different way. How has seeing all these different cultures like Brazil and Europe, how has that shaped you as a human?
Well, I think it shaped me as far as like, I learned real quickly that like some countries are obviously safer, better than others, But what I learned right off the bat was like, Hawaii is a very special place, just being able to grow up here. It's safe, it's like the lifestyle is amazing. And I learned that with select countries. Some countries like France or Australia, like super amazing countries, you know what I mean? But other countries, parts of Brazil were like full third world. So it's kind of eye-opening for a Hawaii boy going to Brazil, and you kind of like, you go into like these pretty gnarly poverty-stricken places, and you're like there to compete, and you're like, whoa, like there's a lot more to this than me like coming to just go compete in this country and thing. You're like, you're driving by and there's like, families begging for food and stuff like that. And it's kind of eye-opening when you like don't really like never seen that before, But over the years, you kind of get used to it, going to South Africa, and you're like, whoa, like it is different way of living, 100%, But I mean, it's all good. It was all good, and it was like good experiences, but like I said, I mean, for me, like I just like loved Hawaii even more, you know. Yeah.
I talked about that on another podcast where it's like once you go experience what else is outside of Hawaii and you come back, you have a different appreciation for where you're actually from.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody's always like, I want to get out. I want to get out. You go out and then you're like, I want to get back in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To a degree.
Yeah.
So being that you've seen so many different breaks around the world, I'm curious, what was the most memorable wave that you've ever caught?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think I have probably two answers for this question. I think a couple memorable waves just right here in Hawaii. Like one, obviously people know that I won the Reef Hawaiian Pro at Haleiwa in 2009, and I won it with a specific wave. It wasn't like it was the best wave of my life or anything. It was just the moment in a final Triple Crown of Surfing event. And like I just felt that wave was gonna come, and I really to this day I know God sent me that wave because just how the whole situation played out. I was sitting in this final. I for some reason I decided to go way far out, like way further than the rest of the guys in the water, like 100 yards kind, and it's pretty, just like feeling that I was gonna get sent this wave, and I sat there for 10 minutes, at that time, like, finals are like 35-minute things. So it's pretty long final, but at the same time, I sat there for like 10, 15 minutes and boom, this set just stood up, came right to me, and it wasn't like a crazy, I got barreled. It was a 9-point ride, but it was just like the moment. And like I said, I felt like God sent me that wave and, like basically won the contest with that one.
Can you explain the ride?
Yeah. So the ride was pretty interesting, because I mean, I surf Haleiwa a lot, and so, you can get barrels at Haleiwa, but they're not like every wave type of thing, right? And so this one just kind of it broke further out. It was a bigger set for that particular day, and paddled into it, and really it was just kind of like all there was a barrel. There was no like high performance turns or anything, and so I just like stroked into it, got into it, and just pulled right up into it. Knew I was coming out the whole time, and just came out, and like, at that time, like I had like a lot of friends and family on the beach. Like I could hear them erupt, and it was like, oh, I think this is mine. Yeah, I'm gonna finally win this event, kind of deal. And so, like I said, the wave wasn't like a crazy wave, but for the moment to like win an event was like that's what made it so special. But over the years, I've gotten way better waves than that, but just like whether it's free surfing or other events or up at Pipeline or whatnot.
Okay, so what makes a way better wave?
So a way better wave would probably be like, okay, so another contest in Hawaii. So I probably got my best waves here in Hawaii, obviously.
Okay.
I've got some good waves elsewhere in the world, but brings me back to a wave I got in it was the Pipe Masters Trials. I think it was 2011 or 2013, and same thing. It was in a heat, a 4-man heat, And, I was just surfing the heat. I wasn't actually doing very good in the heat. And so, but at Pipeline, you always have a chance to win because it's like everything about Pipeline comes down to how deep you get in a barrel or the wave, really, And so, sure enough, this one, same thing. I was like sitting there and like, it wasn't crazy Pipeline at all. Like it was probably 4 to maybe 6 foot, overhead solid, And this wave just came like straight. I could see it coming and I was like, whoa, this is like a real wave. Like it's going to be a nuts one, but then at the time I'm surfing against other guys, and I was like, I don't have priority over this, one of the surfers, and I was like, okay, he's going to see it and he's going to go paddle for it. For some reason, he never even like looked at it. And then as the wave kind of hit the lineup, it just came together and it like doubled up. And it was like about as thick as a wave gets for backdoor Pipeline, Yeah. And so as I started paddling it, random thing too, I was like, it wasn't a very big day, but I decided to take a bigger board out. So just I get better paddle power, like a little bit thicker. It was a quad. And I was like, oh, I don't know why I took it out there, but I took it out there. And this wave came together and I took every ounce of having a bigger board to get into the wave. And then as I dropped into it, it was like, it just started sucking up so hard. It doubled up. The lip was probably like 4 feet thick. And because I had the bigger board, it was a quad setup. Right when I did my first pump, I just accelerated. And I just came into this barrel that was just like, it was like an 8-footer, like probably about as solid as a back wave game. And I just did a pump and it was the most intense barrel ride like you'll ever see. Like the sounds and like, as I started to come out, like the spit just went, and it just like almost blew me out the barrel. And then it's funny. I was like, cause I was so far up on the board. Cause like when you're barrel riding, you have to be kind of further up on the board. So you gain speed, I was kind of in the middle of the board. So right when I came out, the end section came and just hit me right in the head. But like I fully came out, and like same thing, the beach like kind of erupted. And like, I was thinking, gosh, like the wave was intense, and then boom, like the commentator was like 10-point ride, Wow. And so that's probably the best wave I've ever got, and it was just sheer, just like the intensity of this barrel and then the spit and everything about it and being in an event, like, whoa, I got a 10. And so
does time slow down when you're inside the barrel?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. In a barrel like that, it does actually. It does, kind of random enough. Like I said, it's super intense paddling into that wave because your heart's beating. Like, when it's a proper wave at Pipeline, you're like, you'd be fooled to say you're not your heart's not beating. Maybe John or Jamie O'Brien or someone like that. But like, so you're paddling, it's super intense, you make the drop, boom, and then once you're in the barrel, it's kind of like if you get under that lip and you're in there, it kind of does slow down, And then once you're spit out, then you're kind of like, oh, relieved, It's like a more like a sense of relief, but yeah, it's interesting. And then all barrels are different, Another one like some, if they're small or big, or if you're surfing a barrel in Indonesia, like it's like you can toy with the barrel, but you're not toying with the barrel at like backdoor Pipeline, if that makes sense.
Can you explain what that means? You can toy with the barrel.
Okay, so certain barrels, like depending on size and whatnot, like Velzeland or something, like it's a smaller wave, right? And so you can toy with the barrel by like staying in it longer, slowing down a little bit more. Speeding up when you need to speed up. And so a lot of waves like Indonesia and stuff like that, those barrels are like, they're less intense. And so that you can kind of almost mess with the wave a little bit and stay in the barrel longer or whatnot. Versus a wave like Pipeline, like once it gets above 6 foot, like well overhead, like you're not toying with it. You're just trying to make it, because any little error, you're going to get clipped. So all your focus is making the drop. If you're in a contest, getting as deep as possible, but for the most part, you're just trying to make it. And so you're definitely not toying with it. Because if not, you're going to get clipped and you're going to be gone.
Well, it's definitely life or death. And we've seen some unfortunate situations happen in the surfing road, especially even with seasoned vets, right? What I want to know is, what is the feeling that surfers are chasing when they're out there risking their life?
That's another good question. I think... it just depends, right? And I think it depends on the individual, because some surfers, like they don't want any big wave. Like they're just, I'm fine with head high. I'm fine with Barber's Point, But I think as you excel, it just naturally starts to come, you know, and bigger waves are just kind of become a part of it. And especially like if you're a pro surfer, like big waves and you need to be surfing big waves. If not, you're pretty much, your career is going to be probably done within a few years or whenever your contract runs out. And so, but I mean, for me, it was kind of this to get myself to like surf bigger waves, grew up at Barbers, like, like going out to the North Shore, like, whoa, okay, like this is a lot different than like White Plains, like just rolly little whitewash. And so then you start on a 3 to 4 foot day at Haleiwa or Sunset, or when you start to surf, backdoor or pipeline, you start on a 2 to 3 foot day. It just, it all depends, but I had a kind of a turning point in my surfing career, because right when I was kind of turned pro, it was right when like big wave surfing became like this huge thing, right? It was like Shane Dorian's and like those guys were going to Jaws and like, and like, it was like, oh, wow, like I like big surf, like maybe 20 foot on the face max, you know what I mean? Those guys just went like, whoa, we're going to go Jaws and it's like 40, 50 on the face, and we're going to paddle it, not even like kind of bypass the toe thing. And I was like, okay, like I like big waves, but I don't really want to risk my life and go do that, But those guys are like, that's another example of like, they're just on another level, like Shane Dorian's, Mark Healy's, I mean, John Florence, his brothers, like they're just, they that's all they want is like the heaviest wave. And they, every time it's good or big, they want that, and not that I didn't want that. I just wanted it a little smaller.
Well, I think that's your conscience and especially your role in your children's life. Not to say that these guys aren't concerned, but there's just another factor with these guys that allow them to press the limits of the human body and the human mind, right? Like it's really a lot of mental. Yeah. I know if anybody is watching has never paddled on, we'll say a longboard, but actually even a shortboard. If you try to paddle on a shortboard and you've never done that before, you're dead in the first, 20 feet, because it takes a lot to move a small board, right?